If you live in North America, you probably haven't heard about this Honda, but there you go. This one is known as Honda Edix in Japan or Honda FRV in almost the rest of the world. It was the time when car manufacturers was still trying to make a car for all purposes. Do you want a car for the family? Here you go. 6 seats, 3 in the front and 3 in the back. If you want power, you can have K series under the bonnet, and if you want it to be agile, just add a little bit of Civic Type R suspension, which is also an Integra DC5 suspension, along with 6-speed for, fuel efficiency. I was first introduced to this car about 10 years ago in the year 2014 when my cousin and I were dumb enough drifting in an Impreza with no experience and crashing into one of these FRVs, which at the time was a pretty new car. And fast forward 10 years later, I woke in the middle of the night and decided that I need one. So I went to the Yahoo auctions to check what kind of mods I can get, and there I found this Edix Mugen body kit. It was perfect, it was cheap, and most importantly, I, being an importer myself, can get this kit fairly cheap. So I just bought it. The classic me. I didn't buy the car yet, but I knew what color it was going to be. Black. So here we are, an FRV, which is rusty, has a crack in the windshield, K20, 155 horsepower. Well, actually, make it 150 horsepower, because that's just what Wikipedia says. Manual 6-speed, and a Civic suspension, well, just like promised. So now what? Well, in Latvia, there is such a thing that called annual technical inspection. You go to a station where professionals are going to check if your car is in good enough condition to be roadworthy for another year. In a nutshell, my Honda was obviously not. It has rust, and while rust itself is kind of okay, the most important thing is that the holes are not allowed. And it has holes. Some of them are small, and some of them are not really. So I got to cutting the sill, which was the worst, the biggest hole there was. And I quickly realized that this job is going to take a while. And I had a whole day of filming crew, which will be bored to death because, well, this job is just going to take a lot of time. So I switched to fixing the spare wheel pan because, it's supposed to be easier. Remember the little hole probably going to take an easy fix, right? Well, it was not an easy fix. Well, I started cleaning it, which was pointless. I created a bit of a smoke screen, more like a rust particle screen. And if that would have been the task, that I would definitely succeeded. But it was not. So I turned to cutting, and I almost cut through the spare tire. The trunk was rustier than I anticipated, but eventually I got to cutting a piece of cardboard to make a template for the future piece of metal that I would weld it in, sort of. From this point, a little disclaimer. This is not a restoration. This is an extension of the lifespan of the crappy car by a lousy repair job done by me that is going to pass the inspection, okay? Well, the last step was to seal the welding seams, if you can call it this way, with the seam paste or weld paste or whatever you call it, which kind of sort of prevents the whole thing from moisture, but in my case covers the holes that I didn't weld. Well, a win-win situation, right? The next day, my filming crew was gone, and I was all alone. I fixed the other part of the trunk, which actually looks a lot better because, I was kind of warm and trained from the previous day. I sealed it and put a little piece of cardboard here because I forgot to weld that hole there, which was fine. No one is going to know, right? I oversprayed the whole thing from the bottom because it just looks better this way. Fixed the sill of the camera, put some really generous amount of Bondo, sanded down the high spots, primed it, and oversprayed it because it just looks better this way. Well, you just don't see it, okay? Then a couple days later, guys came to replace the windshield, and that problem was also solved, thankfully. So now with rust being fixed and the windshield replaced, also off the camera, I've replaced a lot of suspension parts, and there was just last thing to do. Remember the Edix Mugen body kit that I bought in Japan? Well, I also decided to buy some color matching fenders in Japan because why not? The old ones were pretty bad and rusty, and my camera crew was in action, and I could finally focus on putting the whole thing together. Now, fenders from previous owners, not sure which one of them, those previous owners, some of them have put Bondo in between the sill and the fender, making it basically one piece. Well, it just looked like that. I knew about it back when I bought the car. It was a cringe back then, but I knew that I would have to fix it eventually. Okay, the left fender didn't want to come off, so I had to cut it off. I don't care. While installing the right side, I was pretty chill. Well, too chill, to be honest. And eventually the fender just fell from 2 meters high. It was not great, but I could live with that, even though it was now bent a little. I tried to bend it back, but I couldn't, so, screw it. Left fender was installed with no setbacks, and I switched to the rear bumper, because why not put rear bumper first instead of putting front bumper, Well, whatever. Good thing about old cars and parts that you are not going to reuse is that you do not have to care. And now the new bumper goes on. With the front one, I had this Mugen grill that for some reason was trimmed by Japanese and didn't look the way it is supposed to, but I have put it anyway. And then I faced an issue which was weird, and it's still kind of weird, and it absolutely makes zero sense. The bumper wouldn't fit. I mean, the old bumper and the new bumper are exactly the same bumpers, except the new bumper has a lip. So I had to remove the bumper bottom grill, and then installation was successful. I don't know, but the old bumper has exactly the same grill, and it fits, and the new one doesn't. I don't know. That's a mystery. I don't care. So now, with both bumpers on, the whole thing just comes together. Looks definitely better, and sportier, and definitely aggressive. Yeah. The last cherry on top of the whole cake was to put the door panels. They look really nice, but their main job was to cover the ugly repairs on the sills, as well as the rust on the doors. I first attached them with the tape to see how it's going to look, and I must say, it did not disappoint. Yep. I washed the surface thoroughly, prepared it for application of the panels. I didn't use all this fancy double-sided tape and stuff. Instead, I just went to the Home Depot, bought the cheapest window glue or glass glue or whatever you call it, and started to apply it carefully at first. Put the panels on, attach the tape, la la la. Then I began to get tired, and that's when things usually get problematic. I was pushing too hard, and the nozzle just started to fall off, and everything became messy and sticky and nasty, and but in the end, I just assembled it all on, and the whole thing started to look absolutely incredible. Like the car that usually looks dorky, the car that is being used by grandmas and men with no self-dignity. It just looks like a sports car, like a sports car that is worthy of race car drivers, for real. Yeah. To be honest, I don't want this kit to fall off during winter. I mean, I can replace the front bumper for the winter because I have a different one, but it's not black, it's silver. But I don't care. It's a garbage car, and I'm also making this voiceover right now. It's January. We were filming in August. Yeah, that's how lazy I am at times, but whatever. Fact is, I still have the lip on, sills as well, and the rear bumper obviously too. So, fact is, it was a really warm winter. Nothing was happening. There was snow like 2 times, which melted in 2 days. Yeah. It's totally fine.